All right, as you guys probably saw in the title of this video is gonna be covering objection handling. Now, I'm here to tell you that objections are fake. You can turn every single no into a yes. Probably today you're leaving tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table by not truly understanding what an objection is and how to actually eliminate objections in your sales calls. We're gonna be going through the psychology of objections and how to correctly address concerns in the mind of your buyer. So if you want to stop wasting money, which if you're like me, wasting money is terrible, then watch the rest of this video and you and I, by the end of this video, will be able to overcome every single no and turn it into a yes. So the first step in overcoming concerns or objections is understanding each type of objection inside and out. Just like a doctor, you have to diagnose your patient, which is your prospect. If you go into a doctor's office and you're like, hey doc, my knee hurts, he's not gonna automatically be like, all right, let's schedule surgery. You know better than I do, right? The prospect does not know your solution in and out like you do. So you have to diagnose the prospect. You can't take things at face value. You have to probe and get a full understanding of what that concern is and why they're having that concern. So the main source of the objection is usually categorized into one of the following categories. One is going to be budget related. Two is going to be a lack of trust. Three is going to be a lack of need or an understanding of need. Four is going to be urgency. And then the final one is going to be a lack of authority. So like I said, the definition in my brain of an objection is this. An objection is a question that you failed to answer previously in the call that you have now allowed to fester into an objection. So if you're catching the narrative, you only got this objection because you failed previously in the call to answer that question to the extent that the prospect needs it answered. Budget, right? That's probably one of the biggest objections that you should have. And it's honestly one of the only objections that you should have at the tail end of the call. Understanding a budget objection, everyone has the money. They're just not seeing the correlation and giving you that money because they don't believe in the return that they're going to see. And you haven't made it a logical understanding in their brain. So is it actually too expensive? It probably means that the person is just unqualified and you probably shouldn't even be pitching them. So to truly overcome a price objection is to truly understand how their business operates. You need to know a few key metrics here to make a logical argument for that budget. So the first thing you need to understand is the LTV, or the lifetime value of a customer to that business. So if we just use easy numbers here, right? The lifetime value of a customer for this prospect is $10,000. Then you're gonna have to understand how many meetings or appointments on the calendar does it take to close a prospect. So if they book 10 meetings and they have a 20% close rate, they're going to close 2 deals. And of those 2 deals, that's going to yield $20,000 of revenue for that business. So now, depending on what your solution or your product does in regards to generation of money, you can understand like, okay, John, well, my product costs X, and by our product being in your business is going to generate Y results, which will be Z to the business. If you're a lead generation agency and you're like, hey, we're going to put 10 qualified meetings a month on the calendar, and you told me that you're going to close 2 of those, that's going to generate you $20,000. I'm only asking you for $3,000. That's a logical argument of if you give me X, you will see Y as a result. And if you ask me, hey Dylan, are you willing to spend $3,000 to make $20,000? The answer is going to be yes, 10 out of 10 times. But most of the time, you guys aren't making that logical correlation of what you do and what they see. So they don't see the correlation, because in business, you give money to get money. That is business at its core value. If I give this, I'm expecting this. If this is greater than this, then we have a partnership. Simple. The second biggest thing objection-wise is going to be a lack of trust. So if you're a beginner or starting out, this is usually the biggest problem for you guys. It's a lack of trust. It's just a subconscious issue that you need to fix within yourself. Because if you don't have trust in what you're selling, they will not have trust in you, because it's going to be picked up subconsciously that this guy doesn't even have trust in his own product. Why should I trust him? So to do this, you need to build confidence and conviction in what it is that you're selling. And if what you're selling doesn't work that well, you need to stop selling it and you need to work on actually getting the product to deliver results. Because if you have a product or a service that is good and it gets client results, you should walk into that sales call swinging it and be like, yo, this works, man. Like, this worked as this company, for this company, for this company. We got this guy, this result, this result, this result. Like, I'm confident and I trust that I'm going to be able to provide you the results. If you don't come into the call with that type of bravado and that level of confidence and conviction, you're not going to close a lot of deals. And it has nothing to do with overcoming objection. It actually has to come down with your belief system. So if you are getting lack of trust as the majority of your objections, you don't need to watch some YouTube video like this. You need to actually get better at your product or your service and get more confidence in what you're selling and how you're selling it. And another part that I wanted to touch on there is if you don't believe that you can get results for this company and for this buyer, do not sign them as a client, because they're going to be an unhappy client. It's going to give you bad results. It might result in a refund or even worse, a chargeback. So literally only do business with companies that you are confident that you can deliver them results. And if you're not, you need to be upfront and honest. Hey, this has worked for all of these different companies. To be totally honest with you, we haven't worked exactly with your company or with your industry or your niche. So X. Being upfront and honest. Don't sell everybody and be a snake oil salesman. Actually be honest. The best way to do things. The next objection you probably hear, especially around this time of year, is, this sounds good, Dylan, but we're going to wait until Q1. That's a BS argument. They got on the call because they have an inherent problem and they wanted to learn about what you do and how you do it. Again, this is just another question that you failed to answer, which is resulting in this comment of let's wait until Q1. Let's go back to a logical argument. So if you have an onboarding process or a timeline to see results, really good example here is like a cold email agency. It takes time for a cold email agency to get results. No cold email agency that I know gets results on day one, week one, or even week 3. You need to buy the domains. You need to warm up the domains. You need to write the scripts. You need to send the scripts. You got to pull the list. You got to validate the leads. You got to make sure they don't bounce. All of these things need to be done before the client sees the result. Just making them aware of the time delay to result will actually help you close deals faster. Again, honesty. Hey, John, makes a lot of sense. We can definitely do this in Q1. But just curious, are you looking to get started with Q1, which means that you're probably not going to see results until February, maybe mid-February? Or do you want to start seeing results immediately in January? Because if you want to start seeing results in January, we should probably get started now because of X, Y, and Z reason that it's going to take for them to realize the result then. Making a logical argument and using the actual timeline of your product to be able to sell the product in the timeline that makes sense for you. And the more information that you are able to gather in that sales call is going to help you make your sales argument. Well, John, you just told me that X was a problem. And if you don't know those things, you need to ask better questions and probe in your sales process. Really good analogy that I use is a paper cut or a stab wound. If you have a paper cut, what do? You get a Band-Aid from your drawer and you go on your merry way. If you have a stab wound, you're not gonna be able to fix that at home. You need to go see a doctor, go to the ER. You need someone else to fix that problem. If you are unable to identify the stab wounds within their business, they're gonna only view it as a paper cut and they're not gonna work with you because they don't see that it's an actual issue that they need outside help to fix. Now, the last one you're gonna see a lot is a lack of authority. The person that you're speaking with is not the same person who's able to actually sign on the dotted line and make a decision if they're going to work with you or not work. I got to talk to my business partner. I got to talk to this. I got to talk to the owner. I got to do X, Y, and Z. You should know going into the call if this person is the decision maker, and that's going to change the way in which you pitch your product. But let's just say you didn't do your research. You're on the call. Everything's going well. At the end of the call, the guy's like, yeah, this sounds great, Dylan. I'm going to report back to my owner and give him everything that we talked about today, and then I'll get back to you in a week or 2 weeks. That's terrible. So what you need to do if you do find yourself in that issue, you need to understand what is their decision-making or buying process look like. Does the owner just need to know what it costs and what are the results to sign it? Is the owner the person that needs to actually get on another call with you and see it? If you're talking to what we call as a champion or a cheerleader inside of the business. So what is that, right? That's the person who's mostly going to see the biggest impact from your product or service, but they're not the decision maker. So if you are selling this, say you're talking to the marketing manager, you're going to help them generate more leads and help run their ads. They're the person that is going to be the end user and the person who's going to see the most results from your product or service. The owner of the company, probably being an owner of a company, they have put that person, the marketing manager, in that position to be able to understand and do that job. So you need to make an argument for the person that you're speaking with of why what you do is valuable. Do not speak above them. Like, I'm just talking to you because you're on the call. I really want to talk to the owner. Make it actually intentional and poignant to the person that you're speaking with so they're more excited and they're going to be able to sell you internally. Also, prep them on how to sell your product. For the most part, they probably only know what you've told them in this 30-minute call. How do you expect that person who only knows what you do from 30 minutes to be able to go take everything that you spoke about and sell their boss on it? Really good way to do this is make them repeat back what it is that you do. So, hey, John, I know I told you we do this and this. Can you just repeat that back for me? Like, actually make them understand, right? People only remember things 3 ways. They hear it, they have to write it down, or they repeat it out loud. And so the more that you can leverage those 3 things, make sure they take notes, make sure they hear what you say, and make them say back what it is that you do. So, some key takeaways from this. No matter the type of objection you're dealing with, there are a few universal principles you have to follow to bring up their concerns. Failing to do so will only make everything harder, and it's going to cost you the client. Big things here is listen more than you talk. Stop talking about you. Stop talking about your product, your features, how cool you are, how much help you've done others. No one truly cares. They only care about what you can do for them and their business. Objection handling is only a deeper understanding behind their objections. Like I said, an objection is a question that you failed to answer that you've allowed to fester into an objection. You won't be able to understand if you don't know where they're coming from. Another core belief here is going to be validating their concerns. When they come up with an objection or a question or a concern, you do not want to get aggressive or defensive. That will only cause more problems. You're butting their heads. You want to create a solution. So you need to understand their problem, think about it in your head, and come up with a solution to fix their problem. If you're like, well, you guys aren't making money anyway, you guys will never be able to grow. Like, do not be confrontational. Also, ask more questions. You can never ask enough questions. If they leave that call with questions unanswered, you're not going to close that deal. So probe. If you get an answer to your question, do not take it at face value. You need to ask second, third, fourth, fifth questions as follow-ups to the original question. Hey, John, how many meetings are you booking? 10. You can't just go to the next line of questioning, right? All right, well, how are those 10 meetings getting on the calendar? Of those 10, what is the cost of that call? How many are qualified? Of those qualified leads, how many are being offered? Of those offers, how many are closing? Of those closes, what is the revenue generated? Of the clients that you close, how long do they stay? What is the lifetime value? You need to get deeper and understand better to overcome objections and concerns. If you have gotten people results, you need to make them aware of the quality and the type of result that clients see with working with you. They're not going to totally believe everything that you say. You just met that person. So being able to leverage your social proof and your case studies to make a logical sales argument is only going to help you. Sending those after the call, before the call, during the call, leverage your case studies and your proof of your results. So you're not going to be a master of objections after watching this video. That'd be great. But what you have to do is take the things that we discussed on this call and put them into practice. Take notes from this call. Write down the things that I said, and actually on your next sales call, today, tomorrow, whenever, put the things into practice. Write a sticky note on your desk. Ask more questions. An objection is only a question I failed to answer earlier in the call. Go back to the calls that you thought were good and you got ghosted and they never closed, and go back and listen to them and objectively audit and be like, oh, well, I didn't answer this, or I could have answered this better. Learn from your mistakes. Do not make a mistake twice. Now, if you want to learn sales for free and fast track the way to becoming an objection handling master, I have a free school link. There's over 850 people in there. Click the link, join the group. There's multiple courses. There's a massive community of other salespeople who are just trying to improve just like you. And if you want actual one-on-one hands-on training from myself, there's also going to be a link below to join the SDR Whisperer, where I can actually coach you individually to become better at sales and make more money. I'll see you in the next.